Hello and welcome back to the Kessel Rundown podcast. My name is Hunter.
Hey Hunter, I'm Ethan. Excited to be joining you again.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've last talked to you. But Ethan, this past weekend we had a lot of news come out of D23, which is the semi-yearly, bi-yearly, whenever they feel like it, Disney Expo, when they release all their news about Disney parks, Disney franchises, Marvel, Disney. It's like an American consumerism dream. It's awesome. I had the weekend off, so I sat through all the presentations, everything. We got Marvel news. We got some Percy Jackson news. We got the first trailer for Percy Jackson.
Ooh, I haven't seen that one.
You haven't? Oh, it's book accurate. I'll tell you that. It looks really nice.
I got so caught up in obviously the two Star Wars trailers. I watched the Little Mermaid trailer. Not to go on a Little Mermaid digression, but the music sounds amazing. I'm just not really sure, the
live action.
Is it going to be live action? Is it just going to be like an ocean documentary with a few people in it? I don't know.
Yeah, they also have news of a Lion King prequel set in the live action Lion King universe, not the animated one.
Ooh.
So cool, I guess. In the crowd goes mild. It's just nobody really asked for it, and I guess it'll get some views from some people.
We're going wild, not mild, for the Star Wars stuff. Yeah. Let's clarify that, because we asked for it and they delivered, and we're pumped.
They did. Although there was no Jedi Survivor news, which, oh man, that killed me. As you know, I'm probably looking forward to that the most out of everything, and to hear nothing about it may seem like it might be getting delayed because projects around that time that it was slated to come out with have been announced and fully fleshed out, but not Jedi Survivor. So still hanging in there for that. But to start off with today, I'm just going to run down all the pieces of news that we learned from D23 really, really quickly. And then I'm gonna break down a little bit of the things that we learned, not everything, because we're going to save that for a later podcast. But I'll start it off right now. So the Bad Batch Season 2 will now release January 4th, 2023, with a 2-episode premiere. Tales of the Jedi premieres October 26th, with all 6 shorts releasing all at the same time. New images from Ahsoka were shown, and Amon Esfandi has been cast as Ezra Bridger. Our first image of Skeleton Crew released, showcasing Jude Law's character. The Mandalorian dropped its Season 3 teaser trailer, but its release date has been moved back a little bit. To somewhere that we don't know. So in 2023. Young Jedi Adventures will premiere in 2023 and will be a kids animated series following Padawans in the High Republic. Lee Jung-jae, who plays Seong Ji-hun in Squid Games, has been cast as the male lead in Acolyte. And no news from Jedi Survivor, like I said. Sad day for all the Jedi Survivor fans. And that is about it for the news that we learned of. Anything pop out at you? Anything crazy?
So, like you said, we're going to be reacting/reviewing to the 2 trailers that we got in a different podcast, probably sometime early next week. We're recording this Tuesday night/Wednesday morning, the 13th, 14th of September. Andor is in a week, so my brain has been mostly on that. But yeah, that's crazy. I gotta say, Tales of the Jedi was the most exciting thing to come out of D23 for me. Seeing, we'll get into this in the later podcast we're talking about, but seeing Dooku at all pre Attack of the Clones is such a treat, and I'm just really excited. And obviously getting more of Ahsoka's backstory.
Me crazy. Exactly, yeah, and everyone called me crazy for saying it was going to come out this year.
Yeah, it's so soon. It's so soon.
So soon, man.
I just actually listened back to our last episode about when we thought Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi were going to come, and I was of the opinion that Tales of the Jedi was kind of a back burner thing that was going to come after Mandalorian. I really didn't think it was going to be imminent. And man, they dropped that trailer and they were like, oh, by the way, it's dropping in 6 weeks and all of the episodes will be available at once. And I was like, oh, this is happening. And it just came out of nowhere. So I'm pumped for it. It looks thrilling. It looks like Clone Wars Season 7 level, you know?
looks amazing. What I think they're doing with Tales of the Jedi is this season, or just this batch of episodes, is going to be like testing the waters to see if the viewers like this kind of like origin storytelling.
Yeah.
And maybe next year at the same time, we'll have 6 brand new episodes showcasing origins of like maybe Obi-Wan and his like being taken away from his family. We learned that he had a brother in Kenobi. We might see
Yeah.
that happen on screen. We might see the origin of his home planet on Stewjon or something like that. And maybe some other character. We might get like a Yaddle origin story or a Yoda origin story. Oh my God. Didn't even think about that.
Well, Senor Filoni, consider the waters tested. Just give us more. We don't need to wait to see it. just go ahead and green light 2 or 3 more seasons, please.
Yeah, we would all love that. But let's break down some of the things that we saw in the Tales of the Jedi trailer. We saw Ahsoka after the events of Order 66, so after the events of Clone Wars Season 7 at Padme's funeral. That is going to break me. Just knowing that she's there is going to, I don't know, it's going to change Episode 3 for me when I watch that scene again and again and again.
Especially when George Lucas releases another updated retcon version with Ahsoka in the background.
That would be hilarious. You know how that scene transitions into the next one with C-3PO's face? It's such a funny meme. Instead of that, they can just cut to Ahsoka, and then it'll transition better. Maybe it's all part of Lucas's grand scheme. We also see Ahsoka fighting an Inquisitor, which is different from her Ahsoka novel. Same thing happens. It's just a different Inquisitor. So not to spoil anything, but they might retcon that. We also see young Count Dooku and his Padawan, Qui-Gon Jinn, a much younger Qui-Gon Jinn. Really, really cool seeing that. We see Dooku in Mace Windu and Dooku in Yaddle fighting. It looks like we're going to see Ahsoka's origin story, how she gets taken from her planet. I think it was Plo Koon who took her into the Jedi Order. So we're going to see more of that. We see Anakin training Ahsoka, which is I spotted something a little different. So Anakin's training Ahsoka. We also see Obi-Wan, who has his Episode 2 hair. It's so cool to see Episode 2 Obi-Wan animated and Clone Wars style. But we see Episode 2 Obi-Wan. We see Phase 1 Clone Troopers. But when it shows Captain Rex, he has his Phase 2 helmet. So I don't know if Captain Rex is going to be in I'm assuming he's going to be in this show, but he's going to be with Ahsoka after Order 66, or we might see him after he meets with the Bad Batch from Season 1. So it's just really weird for them to include that right there. But that's really all I have to say about Tales of the Jedi. Did anything else kind of stick out from you?
Yeah, no, we'll break it down thoroughly at a later date. But I'm excited to learn more about like I don't know if they'll include Palpatine's machinations at all, but I would be really interested to know about what Palpatine was doing like when Dooku was in his prime, what Palpatine was doing to make sure that Qui-Gon and Dooku were like disenchanted with the Jedi Order and stuff like that. So I'm really interested to see that timeline and more of Anakin learning to become a mentor to Ahsoka. We read in Brotherhood about how weirded out he was teaching the younglings before he got his Padawan. This is before he got Ahsoka. How just strange it felt for him to teach other kids. So I'd be excited to see more of that for sure. The other thing that came out besides Tales of the Jedi trailer, we got the official release date, of the Bad Batch Season 2. So finally, that's been remedied. January 4th,
Thank
you
goodness.
Said, right? So
January 4th, 2023.
Yeah, we've been tossed around, like waves on the sea, trying to figure out when the heck this thing's coming out, and we finally have an answer. So now we can buckle down, rewatch Season 1, and know when we'll have to discuss it, which is a little bit after New Year's. So it's
Yeah.
helpful.
Well, speaking of dates and like not being tossed around anymore, it looks like the Mandalorian release date got changed from February to some later date in 2023, which I expected to happen because you have this many projects, they're gonna overlap. But I don't know. I'm thinking Bad Batch and comes out 16 episodes. Then you have Mandalorian in February. It's too much of an overlap. They
Yeah,
probably gonna push it back to summer 2023,
I hope
which
not.
is sad. It's sad, but we were getting fed in the meantime, which is fine. We did see a lot in the Mandalorian trailer. It's largely a rehash of the leaked footage that came out of Star Wars Celebration. Nothing really new. So just go over some of the big points of the trailer. Bo-Katan speaks to Din, and she says, "Your cult fractured our people. Where were you then?" So I'm thinking of what she's saying. So Death Watch or Children of the Watch saved Din in the Clone Wars, and I'm assuming she's talking about how Death Watch fractured Mandalore. But wasn't she a part of Death Watch? Like, what is she talking about? Is she talking about like the religious zealot kind of group or Death Watch? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
She was
don't.
part of Death Watch, right?
Bo-Katan?
Yeah.
At one point, yes. I think she defected.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe she has so much bitterness in her heart. Maybe she can't see it. Oh, I used to do this. Um, yeah, she looks like a pretty lonely ruler. It'll be interesting to see whether she
Hmm.
has any support left besides just like the Night Owls, which was like 4 other people.
That's true. And Din is the rightful ruler, so she's really bitter about that.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see the complexity of her character.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess the only thing news wise, because we don't really want to jump in too deep to these things because we could talk for hours,
Yeah,
and there's just more pressing stuff like Andor and stuff
definitely.
like that coming up. So the Skeleton Crew, do we have a release date? Do we know? Is it 23,
We don't.
24? When?
I'm probably assuming late 2023, kind of like how Book of Boba Fett in that time slot had. So very late 2023. We see the first image. Jude Law's character, he looks like a gunslinger, like a Han Solo type. What we know of from the plot is Jude Law's character is lugging around these like force sensitive kids, as we see in back of him across the galaxy on this adventure. And I really like the design of all these kids. It looks like uh, on the far right, it looks like one of Frog Lady's species from Mandalorian season 2. And these kids, a lot of these kids don't look human, which I like. It's because it's Star Wars, it's in a galaxy far, far away. We don't want to see humans. We also see the TT-8L-Y7 gatekeeper droids, 3 of them, and Jabba's palace only had 1 gatekeeper droid, so they're probably somewhere really dangerous that requires 3 gatekeeper droids.
I hope it's
Um,
not Tatooine.
oh, it's gonna be. You know how Disney loves revisiting that sandy planet.
You said
But
this is set in a New Republic, correct?
yes.
Okay. So, uh, about where the Mandalorian is set, right? So between
Hmm.
episode 6 and episode 7,
Hmm.
before like the downfall of the New Republic and the rise of the First Order. So, kind of a
Yep.
narrow time frame. Seems like they're setting a lot of stuff up. Uh,
Yep.
Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Mando, and now Skeleton Crew, all in that time
Yeah,
frame.
we have about 20 years in that time frame, or
Okay.
22-ish years to jump around in there. My kind of prediction for this, and then we'll jump on to something else. We might, because Ahsoka is going to come before Skeleton Crew. That's what I'm hearing, and we all know that in Ahsoka, Hera is going to be cast in live action, and Ahsoka takes place after Rebels and Mandalorian. So Hera's kid, Jason Syndulla, is going to be out and about in the galaxy, and
Right.
he's going to be about the same age as these kids. So one of the characters might be Jason Syndulla. That's what I'm trying to say. We might follow Jason Sandula on his journey across the galaxy. Some of these kids might be Ben Solo's classmates that Ben Solo just slaughters. We might. I don't know. We might. This guy somehow may be delivering kids to Luke's Jedi Temple. Who knows? The plot is too thick to we can't really, we don't know what's happening. So there's no use in kind of speculating and all of that right now. But we do know some news about Ahsoka. So we got some cool pictures for the Ahsoka show. First off, we have Sabine standing in front of the mural from the very end of Rebels, the Rebels epilogue.
Okay.
Dave Filoni told us that the epilogue to Rebels, there's really no set time frame to when that happens. So it's after the Battle of Endor, but he doesn't say when. So now we finally know, because this scene is taken directly from the epilogue, and Ahsoka, it will be taking place after Mandalorian Season 3 and Book of Boba Fett. So that means that these characters are going to be hunting for Ezra. And that makes a lot of sense because Ezra Bridger has been cast. What was his name? Iman Esfandi? He'll be playing Ezra Bridger. So that's probably the plot of Ahsoka. Yeah. Is they're going to be going across the galaxy trying to find Ezra and Thrawn. And then later, I don't have a picture for it right now for us to see, but I'll put it on screen. We also see Ahsoka with longer Leku to put her more closely with her Rebels season 3 or 4 or whatever the ending season is. Closer to how she looks then.
Do they get longer as she gets older, or is it just kind of like a design thing?
So I think in the universe it's longer as she gets older, but for the constraints for the Mandalorian, I think they kept it shorter so she can do her own stunts.
Yeah,
I think they might have worked. Yeah, I think they might have worked around it for this time. But yeah, that's about all the news that I have for all the stuff that we got at D23. I don't want to dive too deep into it because we're doing another video for it later this next week coming up.
Okay, yeah. So the second part of our podcast today, we're going to be talking about Catalyst, the Rogue One novel, kind of a prequel that I read this past week. So it's by James Luceno, who, in my opinion, is the best Star Wars author. I've only read 4 or 5 of the authors, though, to be fair. So he does a really good job of setting the scenery and using the scenery to convey how you should feel about the story, because sometimes it's hard with Star Wars books to know, there's so many different worlds and all that, you don't really know how you're supposed to feel. So so Rogue One, if you guys will remember, if you didn't listen to the last episode, the beginning of the movie, Galen and his wife Lyra are on this remote world. I forget the name, and Galen is a former scientist for the Empire that refused to weaponize his research to help the Death Star, the weapon work. Right, he's the only one that can get the weapon to work, but he doesn't. He's a pacifist, and that's basically the setting of Rogue One. Is Krennic comes and basically abducts him, kills his wife, and then Jyn, his daughter, gets away and grows up to be the rebel who steals the Death Star plans. So that's Rogue One. This is immediately before Rogue One. This is immediately before that. So Galen and Lyra are in the first third of the book. He is a researcher, and she's kind of like his lab assistant, and they're married already, but she transcribes his notes. She helps him with research. She's really smart.
So I didn't know that. That's cool. Just to be clear, I haven't read this book.
Yeah,
I only know my knowledge of Rogue One is just the movie.
So the first third of the book is actually set during the Clone Wars, which was really surprising to me. That's where we opened. So Krennic is one of Galen's old friends that they went through the engineering academy or whatever together, And it's very clear early on that Krennic is like ambitious, like he only wants to um he's only out for himself. He's trying to get as close to Matsumaeda as he can so that he can have the Emperor's ear
Oh,
and so that he can be in charge of
okay.
the Death Star, right? So
Hmm.
um, when we meet Krennic in Rogue One, he's like in charge of the weapon of the Death Star. So this is how he gets there. He basically manipulates people, backstabs to get his way to the top. So um, the first like 50 pages are crazy. Like Galen and Lyra are at this research facility on this like ice planet, and they've grown like really safe or really close with their the people who are overseeing the facility. He's researching kyber crystals and how to like turn the crystal into like basically like free energy for like all
Okay.
these
Whoa.
systems that are involved in the war. So like that all these impoverished peoples that have been like displaced because of the war or whatever would have like free electricity, and it just enables the society to get back on their feet, right? So he's like really philanthropic about his research. Like he wants to help the galaxy. But Krennic just wants to use him for his talents, right? So Krennic
Hmm.
like quote unquote rescues him from this facility. Really what happened was he engineered his imprisonment and then got Masameda to approve like a drone strike and then went in and
Oh
like
my
took him
God.
and killed everybody and like said that he rescued him. And so but Galen doesn't know any better. So like the whole book
Yeah.
Galen is being fooled by Krennic, thinking that Krennic's like a good guy, like just wants the best for Galen and Lyra. Um but when in reality Krennic's just like orchestrating his own rise. So he does succeed in using Galen's research as like a weaponization.
Hmm.
Um, and then once Galen finds out, that's like in the end of the book, he flees. And then the book ends with Saw Gerrera helping them escape Coruscant. Um, that's how, like, it kind of explains how they're so close with Saw. So they
Man.
escape to the farming planet with Saw's
Yeah.
help. And Jin is like 6 years old at the end of the book. But in the meantime, in the between, um, there's a lot of like really neat like lore stuff that we learn about the Death Star, about the early days of the Empire. It was just a really interesting book.
Man, I'll have to say, I always kind of like didn't know why Jin's dad. I know you already said his name like 30 times for some reason. I'm blanking.
Galen Erso.
Galen Urso. How do I forget that? I always like thought like why like Galen is like everyone speaks so highly of him. Why was he like with the Empire? You know, like why did he give his talents to create such chaos. But now, hearing the backstory now and hearing it all fleshed out, how he's manipulated by Krennic. Also, it makes Krennic that much more of a bad guy. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
He seems kind of childish in the movie. How he's always
Yeah.
flailing around. He's mad that Tarkin took his project. He's back talking Vader, then immediately regrets it. Uh, so yeah, it's just that a great thing that Star Wars does with its books is lays down crazy foundation, which kind of just changes the whole story and flips it on its head. We're seeing that right now, or we've seen it right now with Charles Soule's Vader comics, and also the Ben Solo comics, how he became who he becomes. You see this character development that we can't see in a movie,
Right.
and
And
it's just so many, and like Brotherhood,
yeah, it they do a really good job of making it work on two levels. Like you can be a casual viewer and go see the movies, and watch whatever comes out on Disney Plus and like understand the story. But you can also be
Mhm.
like a fanatic and read all the comics and go on StarWars.com and read the press releases and like read whatever books come out, right? And that'll give you a deeper understanding of the story that everyone else already knows. And you have a lot more to love, but you can still understand the story without all that, if that makes sense. Like I
Very
understood
true.
Rogue One perfectly well. I just I had some questions about
Mm-hmm.
Galen's character. I'm like, is he a good guy? Is he, but like what you were saying, um, the book is so helpful with that. Like, not only do we get extensions of the Tarkin versus Krennic rivalry in the book, which was one of my favorite parts of Rogue One, how Tarkin just like owned him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we get, Krennic's inner ambitions and all that, but we also get like Galen as a father and Lyra as a mother,
Mm.
and their marriage, and um, how Jin like changes his outlook on things, right? Like he becomes so work obsessed he forgets about Jin, and then he has this moment where he like is playing with her and just realizes that he's like neglected her for his research, which he thinks is going in a good cause. And his wife is the one that
Mm.
opens up his eyes, like, "Hey, Krennic's lying to you." Um, and so once they figure out there's like this daring escape, and Saw Gerrera like comes and just f stuff up and gets
Does
them out of
his
town, and
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Is
So
are they on Coruscant in the book?
so during the Clone War, Krennic is on Coruscant, and Galen and Lyra are on Vault, Vallt. It's the ice planet. Um,
Okay.
and then they come back, and he's given this like luxurious apartment to do his research and like all this stuff on Coruscant, and that's where like a lot of the
Mm.
suspense takes place. But then we
Okay.
actually go off world quite a bit. So a lot of the book is about how the Empire is like strip mining uh, planets, like basically killing the citizenry or like deporting them, and then taking all of the
Yeah.
ore and like natural resources from planets, right?
Yeah.
To fuel the Death Star weapon.
What they're
Uh,
doing
and
on gosh, that planet that we saw in Rogue One. You know how they're getting
Jeddah,
they're yeah, how we see Jeddah. So yeah, that's
yes.
cool.
So yeah, so in Rogue One, Saw is trying to like prevent them from taking all the kyber crystals. Well, in Catalyst, we see how kyber crystals become like the main objective of the Empire to like steal. So they
Hmm.
go to all these worlds. They actually send Lyra, part of the book. She's sent to Alpin, which is another planet, to like investigate these ancient caves to see if there's kyber in them. And they were gonna like strip mine the planet if there was. And so she said there wasn't, which there wasn't. She wasn't lying. But
Hmm.
on her way back to Coruscant, she gets to fly by these two planets that they've destroyed. And she was like, wait, what? Like, this is what they're doing?
Oh,
This can't be for good reasons. And so turns out Krennic has made this elaborate ruse. He's made like a fake office, a fake facility, a fake research team to fool Galen into thinking that he's doing research for like good reasons instead of the Death Star. And Galen has no idea.
so
And
he's the king of gaslighting. What I'm
yeah,
getting
no,
out of
he's
it.
literally like, when Galen's like, "Hey, can you show me what they're doing with my research?" He's like, "Yeah," and he pulls up like fake holographics that are like he designed.
Oh my
Um,
gosh,
yeah,
that's
uh,
evil.
yeah, and they only really figure out because Krennic is stupid and like kills off a bunch of researchers that like Galen knows, and so Galen's like, "This is a little
Hmm.
sus." Um, but yeah, Krennic's a really good villain. Now that I read this, like, really smart guy,
Yeah,
expert manipulator. Um, yeah, not
I have
quite the
to
strength
ask.
of Grand Moff Tarkin, but sorry, go ahead.
Almost there. I have to ask. Reading the book, did you incorporate his lisp into any of the lines? Critic's
No, I
lisp.
didn't, but I, you know,
Really?
you were talking about you were talking about earlier that you always saw Krennic as like this kind of like flailing like weakling of a villain. It He is
Yeah,
smart, but he also like his intellect is all he has. He has no like physical strength. He doesn't it it talks about in the book how like Galen was like this mysterious guy who was like smarter than everyone else, and Krennic kind of just tags along with important people. He's like Pettigrew. Like, I just think of like Peter Pettigrew. Um, like
that's a
always
good
making sure he's
comparison.
around the important people, right? Um, so you
Hmm.
get the sense of him having to really grind for everything. Um, and he like confronts Masameda, and he's like, "I want to be rear admiral." I don't want to be commander of like this construction site. I demand that you promote me to rear admiral. And Masameda's like, bro, you've done nothing. Like it
Bro,
was really
chill.
interesting to see the bureaucracy of the empire at work. Um,
That's
yeah,
cool.
so um, I
That's
guess we
so
could talk
cool.
about Andor a
I have
little
one last
bit.
question
Oop,
for you.
sorry, go for it.
Yeah,
Go
that
for it.
actually leads into my question. So reading this book, did you see anything that could possibly tie in Andor? Any like hints of rebellion or anything along the lines of that?
Yeah, so well, I'll get to the
Or
rebellion
was
thing
this
in a
just
second,
very
but
yeah. Okay.
uh yeah, so a lot of this obviously like I said is in Coruscant. So Coruscant immediately after the fall of the Republic is so like I we just never see that. Like that wasn't somewhere we spent time in any of the movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we see the Imperial Senate at play. We see it the Palpatine isn't in the book. Like they talk about him, but he's not. He doesn't have any scenes. But like how he's basically the citizens of Coruscant don't know any better. They're like, okay, like a new branding, I guess. Like if this, their lives are pretty much the same, uh, except for
Yeah.
like all the Jedi centric things. Like it talks about how they're they're reconstructing the Jedi Temple into like an Imperial Senate seat. Uh, and they're
Hmm.
like making the Jedi Temple a center for like committees and stuff for the Imperial Senate. So they're like tearing down the big pillars and making them into offices and stuff. Like Masameda's office is in one of the spires of the Jedi Temple. Um, so
Oh my
stuff
god.
like that is just like systematically tearing down the old and bringing in the new is really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that in Andor. You know, we're going to go to Coruscant at some point. And then the rebellion part of it, the last like third of the book, there's a lot of like there's this one pirate named Haas that kind of he's not human, which was cool. That's what a lot of the cool stuff about the Star Wars books is most of the characters are not human. Because they don't have to like
Mm-hmm.
appeal to your visuals. So um he gets enlisted by Krennic to move in shipments of stolen weapons into like formerly separatist worlds so that the Empire has an excuse to occupy that world and then strip them of their natural resources. So does that make sense? Like he's planting evidence basically, and then the Empire is like, "Oh, look,
Mm-hmm.
you guys have stolen weapons. Guess we have to occupy you." So he's like Krennic's stooge, and then one day he like I don't remember if he I think he meets Saw Gerrera or something, and he like decides, oh, this is evil and disgusting, and we're destroying these worlds, and so they start fighting back, and so him and Saul like stage this operation on this world, and it was really neat. So you kind of see the
Huh.
beginnings of the pockets of fomenting in the Andor trailer. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It kind of reminded me of the first half, Hondo. Man, Hondo is such an unlike used character in all of Star Wars. Makes me miss him. Yeah, Hondo the pirate from the Clone
yeah.
Wars, Rebels. He's actually funny enough. He is the main character you interact with at the Smuggler's Run ride in Walt Disney World in Disneyland, Galaxy's Edge. It's
Oh, that's
really cool.
fun.
Hondo Inaka. Still waiting for that live action Hondo to come in and
Yeah,
grace my screen.
yeah.
Hasn't happened yet. Hasn't happened yet. I'm still holding out. I'm still holding out. Mandalorian season 3. I mean, season 3 we're getting Babu Frick. I mean, if we got Babu Frick, we're gonna get Hondo Onaka.
But
The
yeah,
droid is ready.
yeah. So yeah, so I just to wrap things up with Catalyst, like I really enjoyed it. It was a long book. It was like 410 pages. It was a
Mm.
dense book, but it was so lore heavy with the between episodes 3 and 4 kind of thing. Introduction of the Geonosian king. I don't remember his name, but
Is
Krennic
it
basically has to
Poggle the Lesser?
Yes, Pago the Lesser.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So he
Uh-huh.
has to convince him to and they like allow the Empire to use the Geonosians as like slave labor for the Death Star. So they end up building the Death Star right above Geonosis, and Krennic has to like shuttle
Hmm.
up and down from the gross like desert of Geonosis up to the Death Star. Um, it's kind of funny his interactions with them. He's super xenophobic, as you can imagine. But yeah, so that was really interesting, and just getting to see all the different species that are included in these Star Wars books is always a pleasure. So that's about all I have for Catalyst. It's called Catalyst, a Rogue One novel by James Luceno. I would highly recommend it, especially before you watch Andor. But we do have Andor coming up in about a week, so I understand if you can't get it done. But it overall made me love Rogue One even more. I didn't think that was possible, but here I am. Next time I see Lyra get shot by Krennic's troopers, I'm gonna cry. So, uh, yeah, I love her character a lot now that I've read this book. So
Yeah, well,
that is all.
just hearing you talk about it and not having any of uh yeah, just hearing you talk about it without having read any of the book. I don't know. I have a deeper appreciation of Rogue One now. Of like different character backgrounds and everything. So that's really cool. I appreciate you doing the homework and breaking down this book report over here.
Of course. Yeah, you know me. I'm done with college, but one can never do too much homework. So
Were you talking?
yeah, I was, and I don't know why my mic wasn't.
Oh God,
And now
I
it's
didn't
showing.
hear. I was talk.
Okay, okay. Honestly, we can just wrap it up.
All I heard
So
was like the last thing I heard was can you hear me?
yep, yep, I can hear you.
Okay, the last thing I heard was Krennic being xenophobic, and then you cut out.
Okay, that's fine. We can just end it there, and then yeah, if you just want to, yeah, um, here, let
Yeah.
me get three, two,
Well, I
one.
can.
Sorry.
It's okay. I can I can pick up from there. It's fine.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you doing the homework and breaking down Catalyst. I haven't read this novel, but just hearing you talk about it, I have a whole new like outlook on Rogue One, the characters, Galen and Krennic, and even Lyra. How you like spoke about Lyra and how she was like she was huge in this book. I don't know. I just have a whole new outlook on everything. I'm gonna cry whenever she gets shot, even harder now.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. So, yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. We know it was kind of all over the place with the all the news that came out, but we're gonna try and bring a more detailed view of the trailers and things that we got from D23 coming soon. But that's about it for tonight.
Yeah, a shorter episode. I think that we all enjoyed it. We got all of our points across and pretty quickly. But yeah, thank y'all so much for stopping in again with us. I appreciate all the love that we're getting on our YouTube channel. At the time of recording right now, I think one of the shorts that we uploaded has almost 3,000 views, and the podcast before the last one, when we were talking about the Andor trailer, it's almost at 200. I think it's at 160 something last time I checked, but I could be wrong. So we're getting up there. So if you're listening to us and you love Star Wars just as much as we do, or maybe even more, or heck, maybe even less, go off in the comments, and we'll respond to those comments. We're like I said earlier, we're huge Star Wars fans, and we love talking to anyone that loves Star Wars. So yeah, we appreciate the viewership. If you're listening to us on Spotify, we appreciate you listening to us. And, that's about it from us tonight. So, as always, may the force be with you.